There are many different foot measuring systems, but this is how I do mine. Here's a list of the materials you'll need. If you don't have a tape measure, you can use a non-stretch piece of string or thread. And here's a finished drawing of how I want it to look when you send it to me. These two red dots mark the center of the widest part of your foot, called the joint, and that's the first metatarsal head and the fifth metatarsal head behind the toes where the foot bends. You're going to measure all around that measuring place and the instep. Then you're going to draw around the toes with the pencil at 90 degrees to the floor. When you get to these points, to do the back of the foot, you need to angle the pencil in so that you get a good impression of the arch and the tread line, which is the bit that's in contact with the ground. Now, before you put your foot onto the blank piece of paper, you need to draw a line at the back. So that's the first thing you'll start to do. And that line represents, so imagine your foot up against a wall. The back of the heel, about 3 centimeters up, is obviously sticking out, and you need the tread line, which is the base of the foot. So you draw a line and then you place your foot. So if you have a ruler, you place your foot up against that ruler on the piece of paper before you start to draw around, like this. So I'm marking the back line, and then those two red dots, the center of the metatarsal heads, there and there, and that's where you'll take your measurement around. But first draw the outline of the foot, the 45 degrees with the pencil to the imaginary red dot, and then hold the pencil up at 90 degrees and draw around the toes. I'm actually pushing the toes down because some toes sort of bend a little, and you want to get a good impression of the whole of the foot. And change that angle again to go around the back of the foot. One line is good. I think I missed a bit here. That's why I'm doing it again. But I don't want a drawing that has loads of lines on it because I won't know which one is the correct one. Then slide the tape measure, if you have one, over, underneath, then over, and take that measurement and just mark the width of the tape measure and draw the line of the tape measure sitting flat on the paper. And that is so that when I place the last on top of the foot drawing you send me, I can place the tape measure in exactly the same spot as your foot. So I'm sliding the tape measure to the highest point of your foot. Now it doesn't really matter about that for this purpose because you'll have the angle of the tape measure marked clearly on the piece of paper before you wrap it around, so I'll know exactly where you've measured. And then you put the measurements down onto the piece of paper and slide the tape measure out. for an ankle boot, you need a measurement up the leg. So locate 12 centimeters on your ruler, just above the ankle bone really. There it is. And leave your finger there and measure the total measurement all the way around the leg at that point. Write it down on the piece of paper. At 12 centimeters, it is 210 in this case. This is my son's foot. He has a very narrow ankle. It might be 260. So there's a big variation in leg measurements, as there is in foot measurements, and I want to get it right. Write your name on your foot drawing, and also measure from the centre back of the heel to the longest toe, which is usually the first toe. Sometimes it's the second toe, and write that down just to show clearly that that is the length of your total foot. I'm just drawing that line in clearly because I couldn't get to it earlier. So your drawing should look like this. There's a length measurement, joint measurement, instep measurement, and an ankle measurement. Thanks for listening to my long video. Thanks for your patience.